Thank you, Jen. That was very kind of you. Hi, everyone. I'm Brad Bouse, and as Jen said, I'm from Seattle. Seattle is the city in the northwestern corner of the United States. We have a lot of coffee, we have a lot of men with beards, we have a lot of tattoos, and we have a lot of rain. So I feel really at home here in Berlin. It's great. I work as a front-end engineer, product manager, mostly for very early stage startups. I like figuring out what should and should not be in a product. So I have a little bit of advice for you. Now, I just want to clear something up right now. I know that there have been rumors. This is actually not about the Apple Watch. I know the timing kind of worked out that might be what it's about, but it's actually something different. Making something useless sounds, it's a funny thing to say. Maybe that's why you're here. It's not how we think about things. We normally think about things in their utility. We've learned a lot of really useful things today. And I don't know if that's always the best idea. So there's one question that as professional developers, engineers, that you've been asked. This will be asked by your boss, your product manager, your client. And that question's, how long will it take? And if you're like me, that's your answer. And if you're really like me, and then you just want to tell them to go away. You have to deal with this problem. The reason why this causes us a lot of anxiety is that we have to distill all the complicated things that could go on in this product, in this feature, in this bug, all the things that could go wrong. We have to distill that down to a number. And we have to turn that number into a date, and we have to commit to it. And then every decision that we make along the road, we have to meet that number. So this is how we solve problems professionally. We take the problems, and we put them into this mechanism that manages time. And we manage these chunks of problems together to land the project in finished state sometime down the road. And along the way, we have to make a lot of compromises. We have to keep saying, oh, we can't do this, we can't do that because we don't have time. And that's okay. I mean, that's how it works. We've got to make money. Business has to go on. But the one thing that this does is it stops us from exploring code. It stops us from playing with code. So the reason I want you to do something useless, take a little bit of time and do something where there's no deadline, where nobody cares if it's finished. This is the waterfall swing. They have been doing well with this. They've brought it around different installations in different cities. And this just looks fun. I would really rather be there right now, in fact, instead of speaking in front of you. If you ride this and you are not giggling like a little schoolgirl, you're just not human. It looks like a lot of fun. So what this is called, broadly speaking, is creative coding. It's a little bit of a problematic term because it has a gate in front of it, creative coding. Creative coding is a qualifier. Your creative is a good thing. So if you're not necessarily feel like you're creative, can you do creative coding? And that's a problem that I'd like to talk about. That's what I want to work through today. So the first thing that I have to say is don't be afraid. I've been talking about creative code for a while, and a lot of people say like, oh, that stuff's really neat. But you know, it's not for me. I'm not creative. I'm not good at that. My stuff doesn't look good. I can't do that. And that's okay. That's really natural. When most of you think about art, you probably think about something like this. It's a really monolithic work of craftsmanship. This is Rembrandt. Self-portrait. It's exquisitely rendered. He looks like $1 million. It probably is way more than $1 million. So he looks like multiple $1 million. And if you're like me, you might have sat down and you might have tried to draw something. Maybe you tried to draw this. And I'll admit, I didn't draw that. I took that, I Googled it, and I took a terrible child's drawing because I was too embarrassed of my own bad drawing to put it on screen. This is kind of my favorite illustration of the problem. And it's what you see all over the place where experts will give you a tutorial where it starts to go way, 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 way too fast. And when you're an expert, you never see all these geniuses. You never see all the crap that they actually make. You never see their process when they're making art. You just draw the rest of that out. So Ira Glass is an American talk show host, and he has a great talk about this very problem. It said, as a creative person, the first thing that you probably have is taste. You know kind of what's good, what's bad, and you have an opinion about the way things should be. And so when you sit down to make something for that very first time, you make it, you're disappointed because you know your taste is working against you. You know that this stuff is not as good as what you see out there, what you like. And he calls this the gap. And I think everybody faces this. And the only way to cross this gap is with practice. You have to take a step back, recognize that I'm at this gap, and I can cross it. I can cross it by doing work. I can put in practice, I can put in time, I can work on this process. This is Chuck Close. He is an American artist. This was in 1968, I believe. He has a quote that I really like. Inspiration is for amateurs. The rest of us just show up and get to work. Chuck Close is an artist that believes in process. He believes in doing work. This is actually a huge painting. It's an 8-foot by 8-foot painting. It's glorious to behold. If you ever have the opportunity to see it, please do. Each whisker is exquisitely rendered. The way he rendered the bouquet as the focus diffuses around his face is just amazing. It's a luminous painting. And he puts in the work. And he's actually made a career out of these extremely photorealistic, large form pictures. And you can see his style evolves, but you can understand, like, this is a man that's showing up to work, he's putting in the hours, and he's making great work. I don't know what his first work started out like, but I imagine that it evolved, and he got better at it. And he didn't start out, maybe he started out drawing the 2 little circles, I don't know. So when I see this, we like to think kind of culturally as artists as being struck by a lightning bolt. Maybe they're lounging on a hill somewhere, they're struck by a lightning bolt of sudden inspiration, and then they go and paint the Mona Lisa or whatever, amazing work, whatever's an amazing piece of work. But that's not the case. You know, they're men, they're women, they're working, they're struggling, and they're putting in the hours. They're showing up for work, they're working on a process, they're working along a direction. And when you're feeling bad about this whatever you're making, think about process as your safety net. Know that if you keep working at it, you'll get better. And the reason why you want to keep working when you're trying to make something is that great ideas are really hidden. There's a theory that I really like from Stuart Kauffman. It's about the adjacent possible. And this theory is about evolution. We tend to think of evolution as a linear path, where we went straight out of the muck to become Homo sapiens. That's not really how it worked. It was sort of a lurching process where one evolution begat another evolution, which begat another one. And by the time we got to that third evolution, it's a completely different space than where we started. And ideas work the same way. If you're exploring an idea, a project, you don't know everything that's going to happen right away. You have to get in there, you have to work, you have to put in the hours, and then maybe you'll see something new that happens. We have this in our own life. In startups, they call this a pivot. And a lot of times a pivot is a cover for something else, but the classical use of pivot is that they've explored a space, they see something else is better that they didn't see before, and then they move into it. So if you combine these two things, the idea of working, a process of crossing the gap, and then exploring where you are at every stage, you have a powerful mechanism to make something new and interesting. Now, it's important for me to say that I'm not an artist. I'm not particularly blessed with creativity. What I am good at is streamlining processes. I'm good at understanding how things work. But as you see, I'm married to an artist. This is Amaranth. She is a poetry professor. And as such, I have been to far more than my share of poetry readings, performance art, museums, and all nature of strange things. And I feel that I'm here as an ambassador from strange lands to share what I've learned as an engineer. So we work on projects together. This is one project that we did. It's called Between Page and Screen. And it is an augmented reality book of poetry. I know. When you open it up, you'll see that you have markers. There's no words, just a series of markers. And the instructions to go to betweenpageandscreen.com to find the words. So we see me, and many ways. And when we hold up, we hold the words in our hands. And then what these are is a series of letters between page and screen about their kind of fractious relationship. And that's been a very successful project for us. Amaranth's been invited to fly around the world, present it. She does a much better job presenting than I do. And this is great. This was a lark, a thing that we did for fun, and people liked it. It's a real book. It has a SKU. You can buy it. And one of the great things that came out of it was that a small arts group approached us about doing a commission project, which would mean that we were paid artists. That was really exciting for us. Because now, even though it was a teeny, teeny amount of money, it counts, right? It's paid. And so we started the process with this group. Whoa, 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 whoa. Don't get excited. All right, we started the process with this group. Ignore that. And it started to look a lot like work. And we got that question, how long will it take? How long will it take us to finish this project? When can we deliver it? Like, we've got to arrange the gallery space, we've got to figure this out, we've got to start marketing. And it started to feel a lot like work. And the thing is, between page and screen never felt like work. This is actually the first demo that Amaranth and I did. I showed her the library that did the marker technology. She thought that was cool. We talked about maybe we could do a book. We did this where we have a little piggy on a piece of paper. We showed that to a few people. They thought that was cool. And before you know it, we had a book. And now we have this whole other project, and we have a deadline. And it's stressful. We decided to do a project where we had diaries from 1858. A shopkeeper's diary. It told a very interesting story. Amaranth abstracted some of the, transcribed some of the entries. And we decided we'd have a project with the leap motion. Where you would go to a gallery, you would see the leap motion on a column, and then you would see a monitor above it that is not as gloriously large as this one. And then as you approached, you would see your own distorted face. And when you waved your hand over the leap motion, you would see there's another text within it. This is called an erasure. And this is all done in JavaScript with particles. So there are about 1 million particles that are moving around my hand. And we have 30 different entries that you can go and you can read. Thank you. That's very kind of you. And actually, it's really hard for me to show that project because I don't think it's as good as what it could be. It doesn't have the same pop that Between Page and Screen has. People, when Amaranth shows Between Page and Screen, there's an ooh in the audience, and this one doesn't quite have that. And one reason I feel is that this deadline really paralyzed me. There was a lot of new technology that they needed to learn. And every one of these God-blessed technologies had some problem or another in doing this. And every time that I was faced with solving this problem, I had to make compromises because we had a deadline. And that's okay. I mean, that's how stuff works. That's how business works. But it made me think about this problem of time and what it does to the creative process. So with all this technology, I realized that when we were doing the gallery installations, the one thing that people like to do is they just like to go up and they like to see themselves reflected. And I thought that was pretty cool. And I realized with this big plate of software that I had, I could do a new project. I could reuse that rendering pipeline and do something that I call Glitch Booth. And what Glitch Booth is it takes very bad selfies. So as you see, it's kind of like a Skype call. And there are different things that you can do. And then if you find one that you like, you can tweet it. So that's Glitch Booth. And that was about 10 hours of code, maybe 15 hours of code. I spent more time on the logo, on the site, on registering the Twitter, on doing all that stuff than I spent on actually writing the code. And I think that this is a really great example of the adjacent possible. There's no way I would have just sat down and made Glitch Booth. It's a little bit of a trivial project. But because I had all the code lying around, I made something that was fun. And I brought it to Cascadia.js in July. And a lot of people came up to it and took pictures with it and tweeted it out. Here's Carter. And it was a lot of fun. And you can see that now. You can see all the pictures. There are about 90 of them on Glitch Booth's Twitter account. So that's a little bit of my work. And now it's your turn. So I want you to make something useless. The first thing that you'll find as a diligent conference goer, because I know you're going to go home and I know you're going to sit down and you're going to say, Brad wanted me to make something useless, gosh darn it, and I'm going to do that. And you'll find that blank pages are blockers. That's the hardest part about getting started is getting started. You have a blank page. And that's not a new problem. One thing that artists do is that they use rules to help you get started. They're called constraints. A really common constraint is a haiku. It's a 3-line poem. The first line has 5 syllables, 7 syllables, 5 syllables. And in the United States, we have school children do this because the form is so restrictive that it becomes a game. You have to fit whatever your message is into this really tight format. So instead of giving kids some sort of blank verse assignment, they give them haiku, and the kids get it done, and they learn a little bit about poetry. So we're blessed with this enormous network of constraint-based writing. I guess you call it Twitter. So this is a haiku bot that goes and finds completely inane tweets and recognizes that they're in a haiku format and then tweets them as such. They're actually kind of pretty entertaining. I know everybody's got their favorite bots. This one's mine. It's Art Assignment Bot. It's obviously pulling a list of 3 different tasks, the task, the theme, and then a deadline. And they're great. I love the constructed 3D print, critiquing fear due in 2 seconds. So bots are a great place to start. And the reason why they're a great place to start is that they're using the tools that you already know how to do. They're all based with text. They're based with, if you know a little regex, if you can concat variables, if you can pull from a list, if you can use an API, you're set, you're golden. And then there's a built-in audience once you tweet it, and then there's also a built-in data set that's always changing. So there are a lot of really fun things you can do with that. If text isn't your thing, and that's totally cool, this is LeWitt. LeWitt is considered the father of conceptual art. And he is most famous for wall drawings. And the wall drawings are just instructions for how to generate the drawing. And what you have here, this text is actually the instructions for the image that you see behind it. It basically says place 50 random dots on the wall and then connect them all. And so if you want to have your own LeWitt, you hire draftspeople, official certified LeWitt draftspeople to come out. They will put this LeWitt on your wall, and you'll get a certificate, and you now own a LeWitt. For LeWitt, this is a conceptual piece. He doesn't need to be there. You never meet LeWitt when you have your official LeWitt certificate. He's dead. You can still get a new LeWitt just for you. This is part of the concept. So when I saw these instructions, I thought it looked a lot like a ticket from a PM. And so I made a repository. I have no idea if this is legal or not, but it hasn't been shut down yet. I have several dozen of the instructions. You can go there. There are templates using Paper.js, using processing. If there's a graphics language that you particularly like, we can make a template for you. And people are making their own renderings of LeWitt. So this is one. You can go to it right now, and it renders in your browser. There's another one, another one, another one. And the great thing about them is that there can be multiple versions of the same solution. because they have a playful ambiguity. And he did that intentionally that different artists, different draftspeople would interpret it differently. So I really encourage you to fork that repo. Hey, give it a star, because that helps, and then it takes about an hour, 2 hours, depending on your comfort with drawing, with code, and solve some. And then finally, this is something that you can do without any code at all. I know that's kind of an outrageous proposal at JSConf, but that's the deal. So this is a group of Swiss artists, and they were inspired by LeWitt. They have conditional design workbook. And what they have are basically art games. They have, all you need are 4 players, 4 Sharpies, and many beers, and each player takes a turn. And what you see there is that they're doing the first exercise in the book, which is a cross-hatching exercise. And by the time that they're finished with it, you get kind of a neat piece of hatched art. This is a great thing to do with anyone. You can do it with your partner, you can do it with your kids, you can even do it with your company, your entire company, because everybody will have a different perspective on how this art is generated. I did this with 60 engineers at the company in LA, and it was really neat. It was neat. They had them up on their wall for months afterward. That's a conditional design workbook. I love it. They have about a dozen exercises in this book. You can download it at conditionaldesign.org or buy it. If you ever see, they're European, if you ever see them, buy them a beer and send me the bill. This is great work, and they deserve to be rewarded. So those are some things to get started. It's not the limit of things to get started. We have all this great stuff like projection mapping that we see here, the demo scene that Matthew talked about earlier. There's Arduino, Connect. There's just tons of things to do. These are 3 little snacks for you to start with. Start with anything. And the reason why I want you to do this is that as developers, we solve problems for a living. We solve problems through technology. And the technology is going to change, but the problem-solving skills are not. So if you take time to abstract your problem-solving skills using something like this and get to really understand the process of how you solve problems, I think that's a skill that you're going to be able to use for a long time in your career, long after Angular, JavaScript becomes something new in 5 years. JavaScript, okay, is not going anywhere. That's not blasphemy. But you're still going to need to be able to solve problems, whatever happens. So go home. This is my Twitter handle. It takes me to my website, my email. I want to help. Show me what you make, and let's get started. Thank you very much.